For those who are joining just now, didn't join in the morning, welcome. We are starting our second session. We looked in the morning into the vegetation and its role in the city of improving the microclimate. But this session, we would like to look into the water, the role of water and usage in the city. First, we would like to start with Philippe Rahm. Philippe, are you connected? If Philippe is not connected, maybe we will switch a little bit to the agenda around. I have a researcher here next to me. His name is Arian Moredia, correct? And he's looking actually into how to use evaporative water in the city. He's working together with Arcadis and Politecnico di Milano, here in Milan, of course. Please leave the floor to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you everyone for your attention today and for attending to this Soloclim Symposium. I will be exposing or talking about water-based solutions and urban climate as part of my doctoral research. And I will go forward and just start. Okay, there we go. Quick agenda, just three very short points. I will be talking about a little bit about the program and a little bit about myself, and the research topic, and what am I doing for the prototypes. So with further delay, I would like to mention the Soloclim supervisory team. For Arcadis is Marian, Verali, and Luke. Meanwhile, for Politecnico di Milano, we have Valentina, Eugenio, and Matteo. A little bit about my background in architecture. I study architecture as a bachelor and have some 5 years experience in the built environment and landscape architecture, but as well a good balance with the academic side. But further ado, let's proceed with the research topic. So water-based solutions and urban climates. My research reviews and tests evaporative cooling principles and techniques applied to outdoor elements, spaces, and surfaces, focusing on designing innovative cooling prototypes using water to reduce peak temperatures during extreme events, in this case, heat waves, in urban areas, improving the thermal comfort of citizens. And here I show a couple of images, but we will talk further about it. Why using water? This is one of the big questions. So I can immediately tell you as a starting point some of the advantages, the key advantages of using water for reducing temperature in urban areas. And I can tell you that it can significantly reduce the air temperature. It has a very low economical costs, as it's a natural process, so it's done by nature, and it has a high thermal comfort and psychological perception. But it can also support multifunctional spaces. They can become interactive, innovative, adaptive, fresh, in support of urban regeneration and climate resilience. It has easy maintenance, and it can as well support urban greening and enhance the capacity for flooding. It has, of course, conditions to successfully occur, and is related to the natural environment mostly and the microclimate, like so in the humidity, relative humidity, but of course as well within the surface area to volume ratio. So that means the smaller the particle on water, the quicker it is to evaporate if the climatic conditions are correct or ideal. So I started my research with going to the past, to the origins of the application of evaporative cooling. So I studied different cultures like the Persian architecture, the Mediterranean architecture, and I went deep into research on what has been done in the past. And then I started working towards what has been done in the present and in the last years. And I made a quick selection and categorization by cooling effects. So I present here some low, mid cooling effects with water cascades, fountains, mirrors, and so on. And another one that it has a significant cooling effect is water nebulization of misting. And it's due to the ratio area again. The volume with the micronization of water gets into small particles is easier to evaporate. So this has a higher effect. When the water evaporates, it will just absorb the heat in the air surrounding it. And then interesting techniques going around this one is called downdraft cooling, and it's just pretty much misting on top of these columns that is surrounded or confined, creating a cooling current below it or going down, because the effect of hot cool it's just natural process. And at the end as well, I put it together with combined solutions where you have different elements like nature and water, evaporation of water, and then you can have a microclimate, very confined, very strategic. But as well, it has disadvantages, and I found already for the prototyping some limitations. So of course, if humidity is above a certain percentage, humidity saturation for sake, then evaporation processes are reduced, is less comfortable for people around it. And some of the limitations for the prototypes is that it can dissipate in urban spaces, so outdoor areas. So it needs confinement. This has been a great discussion among my supervisors and my colleagues. Of course, it uses water, and we are in an area of water stress as well. So this is a topic to talk about. Meanwhile, proliferation of harmful agents like Legionella is possible, so it needs to be filtrated in case. And of course, it needs some infrastructure change. You need to be spending some money. But let's talk about designing the prototype. So during the studies and during all the research I've performed until now, I separated the principles that are more or most interesting. And I have found that, for example, heat dissipation in buildings, when the buildings are having this wind flows and it's knocking on buildings and it's going in different directions, this could be used, and I will show you later on. But geothermal is another from the Persians as well. They used it in the past. It's very interesting how cooling air is possible over there. Of course, nebulization, downdraft cooling we spoke, and water evaporation, as Romans did with their fountains and with their jars, and as architects are doing now. And then we find the techniques that are just special planning and design by architects and different strategic. Okay, well, let's say prototyping for the niche. I have found different, I combine these principles and these techniques. I put them together with materials of different materials, and I find a niche. And then what I do is I have 3 steps. The first step is identify the hotspots, data-driven spatial analysis, I call it. And the second point is prototyping the solution. And the third point is do the research through design approach. This creates the analysis, comparison, and retrofitting of proposals. The first point entails finding the location. For this, I have been using GIS, so mapping where are the heat, but not only the heat stress in the city. I also use age vulnerability, as age people over 55 are more vulnerable. And then with different softwares, AutoCAD, SketchUp, EnviMet, and now Lumion, I start doing the analysis. So it's very located. That's why I call it data-driven. Prototyping the solutions in certain areas already selected. And then I go through the research to design approach, entailing qualitative, quantitative approach, where I talk to experts and retrofit the analysis. Some of the areas for designing are the response to climate change, the thermal comfort and cost, and so on. But I want to jump directly to the prototypes. I will be showing you 2 types of prototypes, facade and ground prototypes. The wind catchers start by the downwash principle, when buildings get this energy from the wind, together with a different material and technology, and we can have a first draft of my prototype on the sides as well as possible. If you combined as well with nebulization on top, then you can get the downwash effect if you have a confinement. And I would like to present or show my first prototype. This is one of the materials I'm using, very porous. this kind of modish baked material that is, it can support water, it can have some cooling effect by the downdraft effect, and it's very porous. And if you put it in a render, there's a panel of 120 by 60, and it can be built on as a second facade, supporting as well solar radiation for the second building, and giving some outdoor space, some cooling effect. So here is where the wind is catched as well. And here's an image of the structure and an image of the water micronizing inside as well. So this is how the panels are working, fixed and being irrigated. The second prototype that I'm going to be talking about is geothermal. And this geothermal is concise with the Roman jars as well. Same materials and some ventilation that can be used with some geothermal, so where the water, where the air goes inside the jar by mechanical ventilation, passes through water, create heat exchange, and is expelled in certain areas. And these are the first intentions of drawings and draft drawings of the prototype. And then I present here a render of how it could be looking, same materials, some plants growing in it, and the water is below, creating the cooling effect. This is how the water could be looking at, so it supports as well the flooding capacity of the area. And as a final image, the combination of both prototypes create, I call it the cool squares, where we can have an area where it's cooled and supporting the heat island effect phenomenon. That is it. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, very much for this prototyping phase. I think it actually blends really well with our next guest, with Dr. Philippe Rahm. Hello, Philippe. I hope you're connected now. Philippe is actually a Swiss architect, and of course is a principal in the Philippe Rahm Architects in Paris, France. And I think what's interesting connection point between the research and what we will discuss now is how somehow the architecture starts to blend into the meteorology, almost taking the characteristics of something else, something that it's improving the climate, it's responding to us. And of course, Philippe will give his insights at the moment about evaporative cooling and its techniques. Please, Philippe.
Yes, so thank you. So I think it was really interesting to see your solution. I would like to present some different projects we made based on cooling and evaporation as cooling tools for the urban design, and also, of course, we are also using some convection, conduction, emissivity, effusivity, all this kind of physical phenomena. We use it as composition tools, you know, because normally for my generation we were using like geometry, like symmetry, like addition, or sometimes symbolism to design the city or to design building. But we can use, I think, climatic tools for doing things. So first, this is what's happened today, you know, with the global warming, and this is the consequence of that. You know, with this different scenario, it can grow like more than maybe 6 degrees. You know, so the city will become more and more hot. We can see also here the increase of heat waves since 1950. We can see. You know, and of course, the heat waves are linked to what happened in the city with what we call urban heat island. This is an increase of flooding also in since some years, and this is about the PM 2.5 pollution. So we can see that you know, in Milan, and in Poland, this is some worse condition about this kind of pollutant that we can find in the air. So from that, what we can say, you know, today, maybe the urban design is about that, you know, it's to reduce urbanity island, to manage flood, to reduce PM2, and this is our task, you know, as an urban designer. And so if we want to do that, we have to use also some tools for doing that, like wind, light, water, vegetation, or albedo, effusivity, emissivity, or evaporation as a principle of composition. So this is what I'm doing in my office, you know, in my urban project. And so I use this kind of phenomena to do the design. So now I want to give some example of that. So the first one is a competition we have won in 2019 with OMA and Laboratorio Permanente in Milan. This is in Milan, Italy. So this is about two sites, two locations. One is 44 hectares, it's called Farini, and another it's 15 hectares in there. And what we think about that, you know, we have to do a new part of the city because it was all the abandoned land from the railway train company, and so it's empty today. And so we have to think about the future of that. And you know, when you are designing a city, you think about the public space and the private space, you know, if we want. So the public space can be a plaza, it can be the street or boulevard, or it can be a park. And so here we say, okay, the public space should have a kind of environmental issue. It should respond to something. And so we decide to, for the Parco, for Farini, we decide to create a cooling effect for the city and for the people living there. And for the San Cristoforo, we decide to do a cleaning effect for the underground water. So it was like to clean the air for Farini and to clean the water for San Cristoforo. And this becomes a public space with a new for the city. And so we call that the limpidarium. So it's a new type of, you know, it's no more a park or no more a square or no more, it's something that cleans something like the limpidarium d'Aria, limpidarium d'Aqua. And so first we say, okay, you know, when we did the project in 2019, it was super hot in 2018 in Milan. And so we say, okay, we have to do something for cooling the city. So what we can do. And so we create this limpidarium d'Aria. And the way to work with the limpidarium d'Aria is to create a kind of filter, like a land, public space that can cool the air and can recreate by convection, by create a cold pole, you know, like a thermodynamic polarity. You have something cold and something warm somewhere, so it creates a wind. And so we want to create a very cold area that can move the air to the new construction, to the new building, and create a kind of cold wind for cooling the new district. So for doing that, what we are doing, we are first, okay, placing some trees to create some shadow. So okay, the ground will be colder because there is no radiation from the sun. And then we propose evaporation. We propose to have a fountain and a little drop of like a mist of water to cool the air by the change of phase from liquid to gas. You know, it's we move some degree of the temperature of the air. And then we choose to work also on the albedo. You know, we choose the color of the material should be white to reflect all the visible light and not to increase the heat. And then we also work on the emissivity, you know, to some material that will not absorb the infrared from the light, but reflect the infrared from the sun. And then we can cool, we can keep the coolness of that. So all these physical principles are used for creating this limpidarium d'Aria. And then from that, it creates a kind of colder part of the city, and it can create the wind. And then we also work on the cleaning of the air. We say, okay, we have to cool the air, but the air is also polluted. So with PM 2.5, you know, in the air. So we have to do something about that. And so we propose to create some artificial rain, you know, because the artificial rain trap the PM 2.5 that fall down and then it go in the water of the ground. And we also choose some specific trees, you know, like pine trees or some trees that can catch a little the PM 2.5. So this is also, the Limpidarium become also a place for cleaning the air. So this is a site in Milan. And so we do some model for placing, we can see the building in order to have the new wind that we are creating with the Limpidarium that can clean that can go inside the new district. So we place carefully the building in order to let the wind going through, and then we choose different you know, type of material. We work on the albedo, and we work on the different location of the thing. So at the end we have this new district with this Limpidarium, and the wind is coming here, and the new district that is at the back of that. So so this is you know, the project is made for 50 years for the development of that. So so we can see at the end some image of the new district in Milan in the future. And then for the second Limpidarium, the one of Aqua, we choose to clean the underground water by phytoremediation, you know, and to create a kind of public swimming pool, open swimming pool. So it's like it's also to create a public space that can have this kind of environmental issue with that. Now I would present another project. This is a project, a competition we have won with Catherine Mosbar and Ricky Liu in 2011. It was open, it was realized and open in last December. And it's a 70-hectare park, so on the site of the old airport. So we can see the site before the construction, so in between, inside the beginning of the construction. And the master plan is based on heat, humidity, and pollution. So we work with layer about that, you know, and so we create different layers that overlap and create a kind of a master plan. So first we work on convection. So we analyze the wind from where there is a kind of cooling wind coming from the north, that a wind that is lower than 32 degrees Celsius that can cool the body. And so we analyze where it would be more windy, so it means it will be more comfortable. And so we reinforce this cooling effect of the wind by placing trees with high canopy that can double the cooling effect of the wind by convection, cooling by convection, by cooling by radiation, by creating shadow. And so this is how we design the master plan. So it means, you know, it's really like the climate that we analyze first the climate, and then from that we design the form, and then from that we place the function. So it's like a function follow form follow climate, you know, in this kind of way of doing things. So this is a view of the park today. This we also work on the second layer about water. So by managing the rain, also the flood question that is really important, and we can see the park with the flood moment where and then we have work also on cooling by evaporation. I will show that. And then about pollution, this is the third layer. We analyze where there is more pollution and or less pollution, and then we place a lot of trees absorbing the pollution. And so we decide to have all the children activity there in this kind of clean area inside the park. So all these three layers, the choice of the trees are also related with the task of cooling or drying or cleaning the air. And all these three layers together create the master plan. So it's really, it's really to create urban design master plan by using climate. It's become really and then of course it creates a microclimate because it can be warm, humid, polluted, or cool, dry, polluted, or so this is a. So then from that, I just want to show very quickly this, to explain that that we have like a 10,000 square meter of photovoltaic panel that are producing all the electricity and also creating a kind of more shaded landscape. We can see here, and we have some image of that kind of moderated light and that are there. And then the meteorological garden, it's about this kind of climatic devices, so this is to, okay, we can cool by planting a trees, but we can cool also by blowing some cold air, or we can cool by creating a filter or by evaporation. So we have different type of cooling effect. And so this is what we can see here. And so I just want to show that the first, like this kind of cooling by geothermal cooling, by going underground with the air, and like Palladio did, or this kind of all the geothermal cooling. And so we create this kind of sinks that blow air, cold air with so it's like blowing on the skin for cooling the skin. And we analyze that. With Transolar, we made all the model to calculate the quantity of air, the speed of the air, and to have an effect there. And then we have this kind of object, this cooling object inside the park. Then this is a cooling by evaporation. We call that the stratus cloud, and this is by creating a mist of like a cloud of that, and that is creating a kind of cooling effect inside the park. We can see it here. And so when it's in action here with me. And then everything is monitored, in the park. It means we have a sensor every 50 meters. And so we can do a real map, meteorological map. We can see here the sensor that is measuring humidity, temperature, noise, pollution. And so we can see on the application, on the smartphone, you can see where it's less polluted, where it's less humid, where it's more cold. And so you can decide, your promenade or like linked to that. So there is this kind of meteorology of the park here. Now I want to present another project we made with an office in München in Germany called Bauplan. It was a competition about the development of the city of Munich in Germany. It's a 700 hectare development, and we get a prize for this project. So the idea is to to look to all the small village around Munich and to densify this village and to keep in between the village space for the wind, space for the flood, space for the animals, space that are, this is what we can see in green here. This is space that are creating a kind of ecological ecological background there. So, and then from that, we can see here we also decide to say, okay, in what is the plaza or the park? We say, okay, we should think about a cool plaza and a warm plaza. The warm plaza will be very good for the winter. The cool plaza will be good for the summer. So we can, think about the public space, the urban space, not in terms of social use from the beginning, but more in terms of climate use that will create a social use. So because I think during the postmodern period from 1950, we forget this kind of reality of the space. We forget the climatic issue of the climatic interest of the space. We just think about in terms of commercial issue, social issue, but without material background. So this is what we are doing by proposing the Kaltplatz or the Warmplatz, that in German, they say some. And then the last project to finish, it's a study we are ongoing on the Basra in Iraq. So this is for the old petrol oil port in Basra, and so it was here. It's here in on the river, and so the port is going somewhere else, and so this will come back to the city and become a new district with for open for the city. And for that we decide to, we can see like it's almost 2 kilometers. We we propose to do a master plan with we have the river, and to create a large shadow. We call that 1 kilometer of shadow that become like a large public space. And then at the back of the public space, we have a more like small housing, small street, like more the old Arabic cities with some skyscraper that are part of this space. And here we can see this is the 1 kilometer of shadow. And under the 1 kilometer of shadow, we propose to have different devices, different type of attraction and phenomena that will be here. This is all this kind. We have this oasis square, the inertia square, the cold conduction hall, the sunset square, the solar chimney square, the dark square, the temperate garden, the fountain square, the cold breeze square. This is all way of cooling by different options. For example, this is by cooling by creating more and more filters, so you can go, you have a lot of light and then less light, so you can find a kind of a refuge of for escaping from the heat coming from the sun. This is a kind of inertia square, so it takes the coolness of the night and it gives back during the day. Here, this is a solar chimney, so it's become very hot at the top, so it creates a wind by convection, so it can create a kind of a fan, natural fan by just using the solar heat. This is like just a garden, and so there is also some cooling by evaporation there. Just if you want to know more, there is this French book about the project in Taiwan, Le Jardin Météorologique, and so where are we? So thank you, everybody. I think there is some question, or yes. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippe. It was very inspiring. I think it was great to see that water, you're not working only with water as a single system, but it's actually part of a much larger framework. I have actually a question for you from Adrian, who is sitting next to me.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting, quite inspiring projects, absolutely. And my question regards the effect. How do you measure the effect of cooling, the cooling effect of your designs? And I'm more interested on the prototyping moment. How do you analyze the cooling effect beforehand, or before constructing, before creating your designs?
So yes, it was a question from the client also, it's in reality, it's sometimes it can be very complicated to give a real figure, because it depends of the humidity of the air, of the wind, of the temperature. So to measure what you are calculating at the right moment is quite impossible. But in reality, what we did, for example, for if I want to, you know, do you want my answer more at urban scale or on the devices I show? What do?
Maybe if you can explain a little bit into the prototyping area, but in the water-based solution, yeah. Maybe not so much in the shallowing or.
Okay.
But just,
so for the water, I am, you know, as you know, this is the evaporation of so this is the evaporation that is cooling, you know, by the change of phase from liquid to gas. And so when you still have when the air is not full of water, of gas of water, when it's not saturated by vapor, so it means the water can still evaporate, and because the change of phase from liquid to gas need energy, and it's taken to the air, and so it reduces the temperature of the air. So in reality, you can by designing that, you can be sure that it works if the air is not already saturated with the vapor of water. So it means for that it was quite evident. For the air, it was maybe more easy more to calculate, because, for example, we calculate the quantity of air, the speed of the air, the temperature of the air with the geothermal cooling, and we do that with our engineer, with Transolar in Germany. With I saw that Thomas Auer was there, and they calculate that, and it was exactly what we get at the end. So we were quite, you know, because we have some people that came on the site to measure that, and so for example, if it was 30 degrees outside, you know, the blowing air from the device was 25 degrees, so it was almost that. So so it's mean, of course, yes. So I think this is all we can present the things.
So I just take a bit selfish opportunity, and I ask you also about it. It seems that you're designing for climate that is happening now. How about the climate in the future? Like, are your systems somehow adaptable? Do they need to be reconfigured? What is your experience on that?
Yes, I think you have to decide today. For example, you know, when we start to work, we work, you know, like in Switzerland, the question was more the coldness, you know, because you have to do building against cold in order to reduce the quantity of energy to warm the inside the building. And but today there is this new issue about the heat inside the city. You know, it's become too hot inside the city, and also it's become very hot during the summer, also in Switzerland or in Germany. You know, and it was not like that. Maybe 15 years ago, you know, you don't care. 15 years ago, the summer was not a problem, but today it's becoming too hot. So it means that we have to think about, you know, some Mediterranean solution, for example, to increase inertia inside the thermal insulation. You know, to have something that you with this night cooling, for example, to reduce the temperature of the inside the building or of the city during the night, to absorb that and to find solution in order that during the day you will create some solar protection, or in order to not receive direct sunlight. So this is, for example, the need of finding some solution for the summer, for cooling during the summer are becoming more important than before in this part of Europe.